Hi, this is Bravo21. I'm a glider pilot and a sim developer in Microsoft Flight Simulator currently, and this is a quick introduction to the 15-meter version of the Yonka JS3 glider. I'll speed up the video a bit here, but I'll go through the selection screen. You'll see what we have. When you install the package, you get both the 15-meter version and the existing 18-meter version. This is actually technically an upgrade to the 18-meter package. So both these flight models are accurate. In summary, the 18-meter version has a better glide ratio, particularly at low speed. So the glide ratio maxes out at 56:1 for the 18-meter glider, and it maxes out at 50:1, which is still an excellent glide ratio for a 15-meter glider. So 50:1 for the 15 meter, 56:1, but that is at low speed. By the time you're starting to hit kind of right up the top end of the speeds the gliders can do, sort of around about 140 knots or so, 150 knots even they can reach, then the glide performance is actually starting to get pretty similar between the two. There are some liveries in here already. We'll probably end up with others. I'll pick one. I'll pick this one, which is currently unique for the 15 meter. The ballast is different for the 15 meter than the 18 meter glider. First of all, there are no outer wing tanks, because those outer wing sections are much shorter on the 15 meter glider. It's basically the difference in the wingspan is done by changing the wingtips between the two planes, is how it's done in the real glider. And with the 18 meter glider, you get additional ballast tanks in those longer wingtip extensions, and in the 15 meter glider you don't. So you see that represented here, that not only are these ballast tanks empty, but you can't fill them up either. Okay, they're kept here to maintain compatibility in the ballast system in the cockpit between the two gliders. In the cockpit, I'll probably show you it in the 15 meter. In the 15 meter glider, the cockpit instruments will show simply the outer two ballast tanks being empty. Tasks Zor, created by our friend Georg in the Simsoren Club. The weather is one of these presets. You'll find these on flightsim.to. They're quite strong weather conditions, but they work. So you get thermals over flat land and you get ridge lift over ridges. And it's the best we can do in Microsoft Flight Simulator at the moment. We tend to set the time at noon, is typically our standard for when we're flying cross-country flights. You can turn the scroll wheel here. So noon on June 25th in Zar, Poland. Okay, so here we are in the sim. It's quite a downward sloping runway. You need the air brakes on. I've just put those on. Alt-B or click the power switch. This is the same. Inside the cockpit, it's the same. There's actually a piece of sticky tape down here reminding you put the 15 meter wings on. You can see it's sliding slightly. That's with the brake full on. That's a Microsoft Flight Simulator quirk, that it makes the friction on grass very low, because I suppose it would be for a jumbo jet. Here's a little bit of an outside view. I don't know if you can tell. That is actually a 15 meter glider. I know all gliders in real life, they look very similar. We're kind of being pretty innovative with the liveries of Microsoft Flight Simulator, making the gliders a bit more distinctive, whereas in reality most gliders are mostly white. Yeah, so those are the 15 meter wings. There's an 18 meter version where Jimmy will be standing. Everything's adjusted properly, where he'll be standing further away. Okay, so same routine. Let's check up on Jimmy. Looks like I've got a tailwind. Not sure that's right. Waggle the rudder. Jimmy tells the tow plane, give me a tow. I can hear the engine rev up, so I've just let the wheel brake off by closing the spoilers. The spoilers are linked to the air brakes in this Microsoft Flight model. I didn't check whether that's what the real JS3 does or not. Most people don't have rudder pedals. It's very unlikely actually that it's got wheel brake connected to the rudder pedals. Gliders are doing that less and less. They have done that on some. Russ over there, you can see This is the B21 nameplates mod. He normally flies the discus and does very well in it. So he's presumably having another go at the task we did yesterday. This tow plane pilot tends to be a little bit suicidal in that he descends. See him descending? He descends shortly after tow. There's some kind of pretense that's what happens by the tow pilot changing his flaps, but I've never had a tow plane descend in front of me. The risk in gliding is if the tow plane descends, the glide ratio, you'd have to open the air brakes in the glider because the glider will simply overrun the tug if you do that. Yeah, it's just a dicey thing to do. The other thing the tow plane does is he doesn't get out of the way. Normally a tow plane, when you release, will dive and turn in a known direction. And the glider knows that, so you just keep everything on an even keel and keep an eye on the tow plane. Okay, I'll chop out a bit out of this launch and then you'll see us release. The reason the gauge in the bottom left hand corner, which is showing me the flat position, is red is because my wheel's down. So there you go, you hear the noise get less in the glider. There's the tug waving. I'll release the tow. Most of these things do have keybinds set up for them. We'll see what he does. Russ is low over there, by the way. 2,900 feet, it's not a lot of height. So he didn't dive, the tow plane, but at least he kept away from me.
Altimeter 29er.9er, 2 wind 174 at 8. Fly right traffic runway 4.
So, people familiar with the Modolo B21 planes will be familiar with these instruments. They might change slightly between planes, but the idea is going to be very similar. So, yeah, this nav panel here. Here's the thermal look. I could turn the circle in that, but I won't. I'm heading towards the start line down here. So we're 3.5, you can choose your units, it can be miles or kilometers. We're 3.5 kilometers from that start line. I'm going to turn away from it. And the number in the bottom right hand corner, this one here, is what height are you going to be at above that waypoint when you get there. How fast you're going to fly, which is kind of a complicated thing. You use this knob on the McCready knob to tell the glider how fast you're going to fly. You do it indirectly by telling it how much lift are you expecting, what strength of lift. And you say, I'm expecting lift of 4 knots. You say, okay, on average then you're going to fly at 105 knots. Because you fly pretty much according to how much lift you're going to get. The stronger the lift, the faster you fly. You say, look, I don't think I'm going to get any lift. And it says, okay, fly at 68 knots because that's going to be the best glide speed for this fully ballasted glider. If I started dumping the ballast, you'd actually see this number start coming down because with less ballast, it's going to say fly slower. So it works all of those things out for you. There is some lift under the clouds, like this cloud here stands a chance of having lift underneath it. It's not ideal at the moment in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but it is doable. Okay, so that is the 15 meter. If you're used to looking at the 18 meter, you'd realize these wings are, up until some join somewhere, they're identical, and then this end piece for the 18 meter glider, the end piece is 1.5 meters longer. So 2 of those makes it 3 meters long, the wingspan 3 meters longer. And they're just optional tips. But the advantage of having both tips is if you're competitive, if you fly in competitions, you can compete then in the 15 meter class and the 18 meter class just by putting the different tips on, which is great fun. You can do 2 competitions instead of just 1 during your summer, and they're good for, competitions are definitely good fun. Small detail: when I dump the ballast, you'll see there aren't outer tanks, right? So there is a tail tank which will empty first. So here you go. Just clicked my keybind for toggle ballast valve. There's a really quite a small tail tank which is keeping the center of gravity comfortably within safe zones. So that is the 15 meter version of the Yonker JS3.